Good afternoon and welcome to our program. In today's webinar, the top reasons CFOs should consider Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013, we'll review a few of the best new product enhancements and share some of the key reasons why many CFOs are upgrading to Dynamics GP 2013. I'm Don Carnevale, Director of Marketing at Broadpoint Technologies, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. If during the webinar you require assistance with live meeting, please call 866-493-2825 and ask for technical support. Also, at any time during the presentation, you can press F5 on your keyboard to view the presentation in full screen. Press F5 again to return to your normal screen. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them using the Q&A tab at the top of the screen. We will have some time at the end of the presentation to address your questions. I'd also like to mention some other upcoming Broadpoint events. We're hosting a webinar next week for event management, and this month we'll have a session to discuss some of the signs that you're ready to move off of QuickBooks. We'll also be attending Microsoft Convergence 2013 being held in New Orleans, Louisiana in March. More information is available on these and other events on our website at www.broadpoint.net/events. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, John Herbstritt, Chief Solutions Architect at Broadpoint Technologies. John?
Thanks very much, Don. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Great. Very good. Looks like we have quite a few people logged on, and I look forward to sharing some of the information this afternoon on Dynamics GP 2013. What I'd like to do is take a few minutes to go through a quick tour of a slide deck, and then I want to go into the core application and give you sort of some insight of some of the things we touch on from the slide deck itself. So with that said, I think we'll probably be right at 40 to 50 minutes in overall time. Throughout the process, I have a question or two that I'd like to pose to you, and if you could respond back on that, you'll find a polling question that will come up here in a few minutes that Don will bring up. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Today we want to really talk about the GP 2013 application and what that may mean for your financial and operational efficiency. The application is building upon many years of core product and is continuously being enhanced and improved based upon way business are needing to process transactions, share information across the organization, and get business done. With that said, again, we want to have greater control to make timely, more informed decisions within your organization, and we want to, broaden that to not just the financial team, but also those throughout your organization. So we'll talk on that a bit. We want to simplify the way your team works to really get that efficiency that I was talking about, but also allow you to leverage the technology that you for the most part, as many businesses have already made significant investments within the Microsoft technology stack, whether it be Office, email, et cetera, servers and such. So we want you to leverage as much of that as possible, get every dollar that you can out of that investment. And then, of course, we want to empower your staff to make, as I say, have access to that sensitive information that is time-sensitive, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, so that if there's something that may come up on a daily basis or what have you, that they're alerted to that information and able to proceed with resolving those problems that may pop up. So with that, I will move forward quickly here. Again, it's all about Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013. This actually is from December time period. The capture here, so saying, announcing, coming fourth quarter. Well, actually, it was released December 19th of last year and is out there and being sold to new clients for Microsoft. So, it's not just the financial solution that we're talking about, that top right box, the Microsoft Dynamics GP. It's more than that. It's really about leveraging the overall technology stack, whether it be the CRM Online, the Office 365, your Windows, and you might sit there and wonder, how does Xbox Connect work with your ERP solution? Well, in total, some of the way that Microsoft has engineered software to work, whether, it's probably not in the financial area, but perhaps if you're a manufacturer or a distributor or something along those lines, if that's what your business model is, you may go out into the warehouse. Instead of actually being at a keyboard, you might pick up a glove or the gesture with your body, and that can connect to the ERP solution. So great things happening in terms of the overall technology stack that perhaps you weren't aware of, from an Xbox Connect to a financial system. With this release of GP 2013, there's just around 150 enhancements. As this is refreshing, you're probably getting to be a little challenging to read it all. But it's more to provide you the insight that it's not just GP of the past, it's GP with new features and functionality, and you should expect that going forward as well, that over time, and we'll talk about this in a moment, over time there will be another 125 to 150 new features with the next release of GP and thereon. So I personally have worked with this solution for over 10 years, and I can tell you that each year has been about 150 new features and functionality. Just real quick, I wanted to give you some quick overview slides here, and then we can go take a look at the solution. This happens to be the GP 2013 web client, and so that's probably one of the largest takeaways from the new features and the functionality, is that you now have a GP workstation or client available through a web browser. Which is really, it's a great advantage for organizations that may be remote on any given day, whether it's for weather or for any other reason, a disaster or such. They can be working from home and they can see basically what they would normally see at their desktop. With that said, there is a phasing in of the functionality, if you will, of the ERP solution. So phase one, immediately we have the financials and distribution. So, you might say, what's in financials? Well, GL, AP, AR, bank rec, you kind of probably have a pretty good understanding of that. And then what's in distribution? Well, that would be anything like a sales order, invoicing, purchase order, inventory if you need that. So, out of the gate, we have, quite a bit of the overall solution, and then phase two would be HR payroll, phase three would be the project series, phase four field service, and phase five manufacturing. Probably fewer folks on the line right now are probably, you're probably more on the phase three and lower, but we may have one or two that are manufacturing or field service. So just from a standpoint of, that web client, we'll show that in a minute here and give you some insight on that. I've got a few slides here that I thought might be helpful for everyone just to take a look at. I'm not going to go through all the detail on this, but, I captured some of the core areas that Microsoft has enhanced or invested in the solution. And this one is around the emailing. There's, a new 64-bit Outlook connector. There's email indicators on the navigation list, and there's a password protection on Word documents. And I won't go through each one of these, but I wanted to put them up there so that you could take a real quick look at those. So the next few windows will talk about a few of those topics, and we'll look at that here over the next few slides. We'll go rather quickly through them so that we can go take a look at the application. So in here, this is just a real simple way for your users to really work within the application. As you're bringing up a customer list, an inventory item list, a fixed asset list, an employee list, a vendor list, it doesn't matter. Anywhere you want to go look at that, you can have this additional sorts, and you can sort by any of the fields here. But the nice thing is that Microsoft is included in this release where you can set these as a default in the bottom image there. And so the next time you do that lookup, it's sorting the way you want to see that information. So it's very user-friendly in that respect. This has pretty much the same sort of overall look here. You're saving it from a smart list favorites, and so I won't go into too much detail about that. We'll show one of those when we get in there. The email indicator. This is a rather nice feature in that when you're in the application and you're looking at the list of information, such as all sales transactions, you can see whether this particular record was emailed to somebody or not, which is a nice visual clue that, you know, did the invoice go out? Did the order go out? How did it go out? You know, we communicate via email. So this is a very easy way to look at this information by primarily the financial users looking at this data, working with the records. As I mentioned earlier, there's a few things again for securing access to information. So as you create documents and you put those documents out available to your team, you can have it protect those documents so that not just anybody can gain access to that information. And these are just a few of the options on how you can invoke that security. One of the really nice features is being able to also, in that similar fashion in that list, this is showing the purchasing transactions, and it's showing that this particular payment, see you have a list of payments here, it's showing that that particular payment was reconciled to the bank rec, which is important to know as you're working with transactions, perhaps you're doing some research or inquiry on those. This is another area where it's helpful to see that information from one stream. This is just an extension of that. As you can drill down that record, then you can see whether it's reconciled or not, and then from there you can go through the process of avoiding a transaction that has been reconciled, but it throws the prompt that, hey, you know, you're about to avoid something that has been previously reconciled, which you probably want to take into consideration in terms of any adjusting journal entries and such. So from a general ledger, real quick over this, they've added the ability to look at the journal entry inquiry from a historical perspective. They added both the inventory and the bank reconciliation to the overall solution, so that we can look at tying those subledgers, the bank rec, payables, receivables, inventory, to the general ledger in a very user-friendly fashion. And then there's some year-end closing options that they've refined. So with that said, I'm just going to skim through these again here. You're able to see that journal entry inquiry across the historical year. So that's the important thing here. You're looking back on a previous year, and you couldn't do that prior with that, and running a report and such. There's plenty of inquiry in GB 2010 and prior, but not to this degree. As I mentioned, the Reconcile Bank is a new feature where you would go through the process. You would identify the date range that you want to work with. You specify the GL count from a cash standpoint, and you put in the checkbook that you want to go ahead and proceed with reconciling. Once you do that, then the following window will pop up, and it's a nice presentation of your subledger on the left-hand side and your GL on the right-hand side, and then it shows the unmatched records, okay, and then the potentially matched records, and then the matched records. So the first thing, you don't need to worry about the matched records. They're in agreement between the subledger and the ledger. The potentially matched would be something you might want to review, but certainly the unmatched might be something that you really need to sort of decipher as to why something was recorded either at the GL but not at the subledger, or at the subledger and not at the GL. And that could be the case of a journal entry or something like that, or an unposted transaction. So those things we can look at as well. So the year-end closing option, there's not so much to say about this, and some of these windows are pretty straightforward, the features and functionality. They've added a status bar here, and it's just giving you a little bit more insight as to what's going on within the year-end close process itself. With this release of GP, they have enhanced the vendor 1099 information, and what they've done is they've added the ability for you to go in and take a non-1099 vendor and convert that information so that it is a 1099 vendor. So if you incorrectly were not tracking a vendor as 1099, you can go in and mass change those transactions throughout the current year and move them so that they are now within the 1099. So that's it's a great feature that I know many clients will be anxious to leverage. This is just another way to actually view that updating of the 1099 data and move it over as part of the 1099 year-end process. And as it relates to the 1099, you can now print the 1096 form through the application, and this is just a quick sample of that. So nice enhancements there around the payables. I won't go into all the details, but I did want you to know that from a payroll and I took the HR piece out because there's even more of a step outside of what we're normally talking about from a financial, but certainly there's a long list of the HR functionality they added as well, and I'll show you a quick snippet of that when we're in the application. But as you can see, payroll is not new to GP. It's in fact been around for at least 15 years, I'd say, and they just continue to enhance the application, so it's really rock solid in terms of if you want to bring payroll in-house. Now, I'm not one, once you've taken payroll outside, I rarely find a client that's willing to bring it back in, and I'm not a big, change of thought around that. If you have it outsourced, then it's probably going to stay outsourced. So, however, if you do have a complicated payroll process, you may be bringing that in-house and managing it on a regular basis. I apologize. I thought I had removed the HR module, but here's the detail around the HR that you can take a quick look at as well. And then just lastly, before we go over to the application, I think there's a couple things that, Don, I'd like to bring up the polling questions before we go into the application, but the other thing is I did want you guys to see sort of a roadmap. 2010, GP 2010 was released in 2010. GP 2013 was just released in December. And as we talked about, it really is talking about, that web client and the Office 365 and, a rapid start, a quick implementation and such, and really simplicity and productivity in Azure enablement. But you can also see that the roadmap for 2014 and 2016 for version 14 and 15, it's definitely already on the calendar. Development is already working on those, and I'm really excited about seeing some of the future enhancements in the future as well. So with that done, I'll pass it back to you. If you could put up the polling question.
Sure. Here's our first polling question. And it's very simple. We just like to find out from everyone in attendance, how long has your organization been using your current ERP system? So we'll give you just a few moments to do that.
And again, just to answer, we've got quite a few that have already clicked on it, but all you have to do is just click on the little radio button there to the left of the item, and then you will be registered on the right, and you can see the results. Okay. So it looks like we won't delay it any longer. We've got roughly 3 people responded. If anybody is needing to, you can click on that button to the left, and it will register your vote. Okay, and then the next polling question, Don?
And here's our other question. It basically is asking, is your organization currently able to meet your financial and operational processing and reporting requirements?
Okay, it looks like we have around the same number voting on that as well. And it looks like on the previous polling question we had a sort of an equal split amongst the 3 options, A, B, and C. This, it looks like, whether we're doing the reporting and processing in a manual external to the financial system, that might be one of the ways that you might be doing this. So yes, you might be able to do that. However, having a really good automated solution, I wonder that if that's something that you're able to generate those reports and proceed with workflow and data processing that's in more of an automated fashion. So, well, very good. That's wonderful. Thank you for joining in on the responses there, the questions. let me go over and share my application at this point, and I will go into my GP product, and I will go to my home page and just give it a second to refresh here. Don, how's it look?
Looks good, John.
Wonderful. So, Don, how far to the right can you see? Can you see the question mark in the top right?
I cannot.
All right. Well, I will bring the information up, and I'll go ahead and review that here in a second. And I'll know to move it over so that everybody can see it. How far down can you see, Don?
In the section labeled Connect, where it says Microsoft Dynamics, I can see the first two blue highlighted items, Customer Source and Community.
Okay, very good. So what I wanted to talk about is really sort of the GP client and what that looks like. And in here, just a real quick navigation. This is really a role-based user experience, and I'm logged in as a system administrator. I'm logged onto the home page, and from the home page, I can gain access to other pages, such as the Financial Center or the Sales Center, etc. And as I make these selections, I am then provided additional information on the screen to the right in the overall desktop, if you will. But also on the top left, I have different navigation places that I can go to. So we can pick these up here in a minute. But one thing I wanted to talk about briefly is really from the home page. And just give you a 30,000-foot view before we go too much further. Here you're seeing some to-dos, some your reports that you may be running on a regular basis, and then down at the bottom you have Connect, and you may have different websites that you want to connect to and such. And then over to the right we have quick links. So this really empowers the particular user to really navigate the system without really a lot of effort. So for example, if I wanted to look at this particular summary demo JH, if I just click on that, it's going to bring up that particular report. That is my summary trial balance report, and just I pinned it to my desktop. If I wanted to email this, all I have to do is click on this button, and out the door it would go to individuals. Or if I wanted to print it, I could print it from the top left. So really very user-friendly. It's not difficult to add this information to your desktop. Your end user can do that, and you don't need really the IT department. Just a little bit of overview on how to do it. The second thing is that quick links is very much the same thing. If you wanted to go look at the payable summary inquiry, well, there's the payable summary inquiry. And if I close out of that, so that's all kind of core functionality of GP, not just so much GP 2013, but allowing the user to work within the app. Some of the benefits that you would leverage right away would be, say, looking at your reminders and clicking on this, let's say, a receivables due today. And in this, how's the refresh on? Is it coming through pretty quick?
Yeah, looks good.
Good. So in this smart list, you're able to see information that you need to have your finger on at a moment's notice for whatever that data might relate to. This happens to be receivables that are due today. You could also look at not just the sales data, but you could look at the purchasing data. You could look at, in a similar fashion, you could look at the payables transactions, and you could take a look at the past due payables, however many there may be of that. And then, of course, within here, again, this is just core GP, but it's all about how your users can really interact with the application. So if I wanted to kick this data out to Excel, then I click on Excel. Now, I know I haven't shared that window out, but if I go up and share the content, and I share the content, hold on a second. And now you'll be able to see the Excel output that came from the smart list itself. And it puts the column headers and such into that data. So then everything that you're accustomed to doing within Excel, from doing the filterings and pivot tables and formatting, that all possible naturally, and it's just a direct connection from SmartList right, to Excel. And likewise, you can go to Word with the same sort of functionality. So, you know, it's really a great solution. It takes it beyond just your standard reporting, because although this is giving me my data, and I do have the ability to put in, you know, additional columns in here so I can look at additional data. It's not difficult to do. It's just really a matter of clicking on this data, finding out if you want 1099 type. Well, then, you know, page down, you know, there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 20, 40, 60. You know, any data element that's out here, let's just take document date. Well, let's take document date. And then, again, I don't need the IT development resources to add that data. And then the nice thing is that I can save this as a favorite, and then at which point it puts it over here, and the next time I come in here, that particular view to the data is there. So it's really robust. The other thing that's powerful about this is that I can choose to link on any of these. So if I wanted to go look at the transaction inquiry, the vendor credit summary, or if I just wanted to take this and double-click on this record, it brings up that inquiry view, and then I can take a look at the applied application. So, you know, what payment or cash receipt settled that, and then, of course, the distribution accounts and such. So very powerful in terms of your filtering your data, reporting your data, performing inquiries and updates to your data. Very powerful. So closing that out, let's take a moment to continue the overview here. If I go to any of the financial, let's say, you'll notice that your desktop changes. And one of the functions that they added with GP 2013 is that if you work with a particular area within the financial and you want that in a particular place, you just click on that and drag it. If you want reports, and you want reports up here in the top left, you go ahead and put those reports in the top left. So very easy to work through the application. If you wanted to go in and look at your general journal entry, you click on that general journal entry, and there's your information that you would just go ahead and put in a journal entry into the system. Okay. So that's a very easy user experience to work with. One other thing that I want to communicate with you on is this. I don't think you can see it. I'll drag it over there, but I just clicked on that question mark that I asked Dawn about a moment ago, and on that question mark, you have what is referred to as the what's new in GP 2013, and it's true for each release. They have this update. So everything I kind of talked about, well, all those points that I brought up during the overview, such as the general ledger, here is that, view the status during the year-end close, having a general ledger batch approval information stored, reconciling the sub-ledgers to, I'm not sure that you can see that, so let me move that up, reconciling the sub-ledgers to the general ledger, so bank rec, payables, receivables, inventory, those things that I mentioned during the quick PowerPoint overview, all of those are captured here for you to be able to sort of look through and determine, what might be applicable to you as you're making a decision on a new application for an ERP. So that's great information to be at your fingertips. Another feature that I want to show you real quick in here is under that routines, that month-end process. So under the financial, we talked about reconciling that general ledger. And so in here, if I want to reconcile the payables module, or as I just went over, the receivables inventory, bank rec, here, let's just do payables, and let's go ahead and process this, and you will see here that what I mentioned a moment ago about that view of the payables on the left and the receivables on the right, and I shrinking that down so you might be able to see a little bit more. But you have the unmatched, the potentially matched, and then the matched. And then at the very bottom, you will see information as to the balances, whether they're in balance or if there's a difference. So again, very easy to tell that GL account which one you want to look at, define the date range, and then it's going to go get your information for that period of time and present it to you in seconds or minutes, whereas in the past you would print, an AP or an AR or a trial balance and from the subledger and go through the long process of doing the reconciliation yourself. So very powerful in that regard. Let me close out of a few of these here. And so one other thing that I wanted to sort of just cover with you is around this, let's say, the purchasing side. And as I've selected the purchasing, I could take a look at a very useful window that allows you to list information and allows you to process those transactions or generate reports or perform updates. And it's just taking a second here to refresh, so bear with me. Okay. So in here, and I will do something like this and hope that we can maneuver around a little bit and so that you can see what I'm talking about. Don, real quick, can you see the little table that says payables aging by vendor?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, great. And then how far down, Don, can you see? Can you see like where it says on the left-hand side project?
The last thing I see in the middle grid is 4/11/2017 invoice Advanced Office Systems.
That's fine. Very good. So let me move this up a little bit. So what you're seeing here is a listing of all the particular records that we've put a filter on. And at the top, I would imagine by now everyone's using Windows 2007 or higher, whereas in the past you didn't have the ribbon in your Microsoft Office suite. But now you see here, this is the ribbon that you're accustomed to using within the Office suite now. So you'll notice though that they're grayed out, and you can't really perform any actions or modify, etc. And that's because I haven't selected any records here. But further, I can bring up the bottom of this, and I can show you that as I'm selecting records here, the information box below is giving me sort of that view into customer, into vendor, into employee, etc. It's giving me that information I need in one place. Further to that information, it's actually showing me a graphical representation, business intelligence-wise, on the right-hand side. Now, I apologize, it's probably very tiny there, and it's probably a little bit difficult to see. But this is a graphical representation for the vendor that we're looking at. If I switch this, it switches to the specific vendor that I'm on. So here's Beaumont Construction. Here's Advanced Office Supplies, and you'll notice that Advanced Office Supplies data comes in. In addition, we also have additional views to this data from a business intelligence standpoint. So the way that you're seeing these reports here, these are all SSRS reports that are Microsoft Server reports that we can provide to your end users, and they wouldn't have to be in GP to view this data, which is really where you probably want to be with some of your data entry and viewing. As you make selections from here, this data then starts to update. You notice that my ribbon becomes available, and if I want to zero in on specific records, all I have to do is put in some logic in here, and a lot like that smart list that I was showing a few minutes ago. You just put in a few details here, and you can go find the data that you want, and only those records will be there, and then you can just check off all those records. At which point, you can go ahead and process a report for those. You can then print the documents, etc. So there's a pretty good overview of that. Now, what I'd like to do is really, I know I'm covering a lot of ground, but I want you to be able to see the web client, if you will, and now that you have sort of a view of the GP, from the workstation install, I wanted to give you a view from what it would look like through the web client. And this is just a quick overview. So what you're seeing here on your screen is the GP web client. You see in the top left there, it says, Microsoft Dynamics GP, Windows, Internet Explorer. This is the GP client accessed through Internet Explorer through the web. I'm going to break this window in half, and I'm going to put the GP to the right from a workstation standpoint, and I'm going to put the same GP from the Internet Explorer to the left. So as I'm doing that, it may be a little bit cut off. Don, how far to the right? Can you see the Contoso Inc. home on the right-hand side?
Right. We can see the reminders, the first two on the left, overdue invoice and customer OV. That's number 7 there.
Yep, that's everything I'm looking at as well. And so what you're seeing is basically on the left-hand side, you're seeing the web client, GP user interface, and on the right-hand side, you're seeing what would be, if you have your PC and you want this loaded on your PC, that would be on the right-hand side. So now within that view, we can expand that, and now I'm just solely on the Internet client here, and if I click on this, you will see that I can maximize. So again, based upon the individual's user preference, they can do whatever they want to these views. So if I wanted to expand that and make it the whole window, I can do that. If I want to condense that, again, then I can do that. If I wanted to show that same functionality within the GP client, then if I just bring up the local GP client workstation install, let's say, here, same window. If I wanted to expand that, I'm expanding it in the same fashion. So very much that same user experience. Now, what you will see, though, is that there's a nuance here. Again, you can move windows around and such. But if you wanted to look at how the user interacts within a particular window, such as a customer record, this is the customer record within the local workstation install. And you'll notice down here at the bottom, you notice you have some information on the accounts, the addresses and options and such. If I wanted to get to that same information within the Internet client, you'll notice that the account, the address, and the options and email options are set as tabs instead of buttons within the window. So there's a slight nuance change around that, but otherwise it's really pretty much identical to what your user would be accustomed to seeing. So I think that pretty much, there's a real quick also here illustration of how the map point can be utilized. So that connection is there as well. If you find that is useful for your organization, especially if you're on a service or distribution, that would be important to you. So that's really a quick overview on the web client. And with that, Don, I'll turn it back to you and see if there's any questions. And if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer those. I hope I've covered everything that we had in mind. If there's a particular point that you want me to drill in on a little bit more, I'll be happy to do that. And if there are any questions that I perhaps can't answer right now, we'll certainly take your information and we'll respond with a follow-up email.
All right. Thank you, John. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time of the presentation where we will take a few minutes to answer your questions. So please go ahead and use that Q&A tab at the top of your screen and enter your question for John, whether it's about a functionality question or just about GP, about the enhancements, about the improvements that have been made, anything that you'd like to know about GP 2013 or about Broadpoint, we'll be happy to answer. Just go ahead and use that Q&A button, and we'll take a few questions here over the next few minutes. Okay, John, we've got our first question. The question is there any component that will work with Office 365?
So within Office 365, we have to look at what's that you're using. So there's the potential for the Office suite, email, and then SharePoint, as well as, I believe that there may be a CRM component as well, a CRM online. But so those pieces can be leveraged with Office 365. If you If you want, I can follow up with more details. We do have resources in-house that can provide a little bit more information around the Office 365 and the integration there.
All right. Go ahead and continue to input your questions into that Q&A tab, and we'll go ahead and take those. One other question that's come in, John, is if I want to access GP 2013 in the cloud, does that cost extra, or is it part of the core functionality?
So there is the core license for GP that you would need to access that. Depending upon how the users need to interact with the application, for example, a vast majority of your users may only need to look at reports and such. So if that is the case, then we may be looking at just a simple SharePoint site serving up some reports that your users can gain access to. They won't need a full GP license to do that. Microsoft does have licensing for SharePoint and for that degree of access. But if you need to have the inserts and updates and edits and all that stuff, then they will need to have a full GP user license.
Okay, another question has just come in. Will Dynamics 2013 have the capability to store statistical data such as compensation, etc.?
So you can have statistical information within GP that is managed through, let me go to the app here, hold on. So within the application, you can go into the financial, and you can set up unit accounts, and the unit accounts will allow designed specifically for statistical analysis, whether it's somebody's base compensation, or whether it's like an allocation of let's say your monthly lease payment to the different departments within your organization. You can set that up. You can say that it's based upon square foot and such, or by employee headcount, or if you are a hospital or a medical clinic or something like that, and it's number of patients, seen in a particular day, week, month. You can set up unit accounts, and we can use the integration application to pull that data in from, say, a front-end solution for medical billing or something like that. You can pull that data in, and you can use that for statistical reporting purposes. You can also use that information in the unit accounts in your ability to perform variable and fixed allocations. So, you can take a dollar amount and have it posted in the system, but immediately post out of that GL account based upon, again, let's say a lease payment or rent or utilities and such. So yes, we can do that. Any other questions there?
We do have just a couple more minutes here. If there are any questions, please go ahead and enter those in the Q&A tab, and we'll have John address those. So, John, it appears there's no more questions, so if you want to go ahead and wrap up, we're on our last slide or two here, so just give a brief review, and we'll sign off for the afternoon.
Absolutely. Let me minimize this video view thing here. Okay, great. And so, am I on slide 1 here? Okay, so again, it's really about what we reviewed today was around the GP 2013. Centered on GP 2013 and some of the enhancements there. But I also touched on some of the core functionality, and I did that because, knowing that you in the audience may not have worked with GP recently, and maybe you've worked with it in the past, but there's significant improvements over the last 5 years or so. It's a very rock-solid solution. Again, it's on version 12 now, so that did come from version 1 through 12, so there's several iterations of the application over the last 15 years, and I would anticipate another 5 to 10 years of increased capability within the application. With that said, I don't think we can say too much about any ERP beyond 10 years, so I think they'll all be there, but I really hope you have found this information helpful. We have identified ways that, we can look at information through the application that the end user can tailor their user experience. They can really, notification stamp up when they log in. They see those reminders on their desktop. They know to click on those. They know to drill down to the smart list. They know how to print that data out. They know how to drill down to the detail, and it's on a timely basis that individuals are getting their hands on information. We can take that same degree of capability to your larger organization, to the, let's say the 80% of your organization that's not in GP or not in your financial solution. We can look at ways of getting that information out to not just give information out, but also to invoke workflow and business processes that make sense for your organization. So with that in mind, I think I covered all the points here. I will, again, if you have any questions, please let us know. You can circulate those back to Don, and Don will get them to myself and others within our organization. We're more than happy to reach out and follow up with any questions. So thank you again for joining the session today, and let us know if you have any follow-up points. Thanks. Don, back to you.
All right, John, thanks very much. That will conclude our presentation for today, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Use the information right there on your screen. And we look forward to seeing you at another Broadpoint event very soon. Have a great afternoon. Goodbye.